We've seen a lot of text messages and references to hot sauce and hot sauce retrieved from the home. At some point in time, were you asked to start feeding him bread with hot sauce on it?
Yes.
And who asked you to do that?
Shanda.
Why were you giving him bread with hot sauce on it?
Because he was supposedly misbehaving.
And how would you, describe to the jury what you would do to do that and to make him eat the bread with hot sauce?
I would put it on bread, have him stand in the kitchen area near the back door and watch him eat until he finished.
And was he required to eat it until it was all gone?
Yes, sir.
Did it ever look like he wanted to eat the bread with hot sauce?
No.
Were there times where you were told that he could have something besides bread with hot sauce on it if he ate the bread with hot sauce first?
Regular bread, yes.
So he had to eat that bread with hot sauce first, and then he could have some regular bread?
Yes.
Did he have to wait a period of time before he could eat the regular bread, though?
Yes, sir.
What, do you remember about what that was, about how long?
30 minutes?
With taking the bread out of the equation, was hot sauce used in some other fashion as a form of discipline for him?
It was poured directly into his mouth.
And who would do that?
Me or Shanda, me under her orders.
And it's just like what you sound like? How did you do that?
Had him open his mouth and poured it in.
There's some text messages. Do you recall a text message you exchanged with your mother in, I believe it's around April or so, where you've alerted her to the fact that he's eaten some part of a burger?
Yes.
Do you recall that?
Yes.
What was it? What part of the burger is it that he ate?
Just the crust.
And what was your mother's response when you told her that he had eaten the crust of that burger?
Make him throw it up.
Did you try to do that?
I tried at first, yes.
How did you try to do that?
Putting a finger into his mouth as instructed to the back of his throat to induce vomiting.
So who gave you the instruction to put your finger in the back of his throat?
Shanda?
We don't see a text message to that effect. Were you two also communicating by camera as well?
Yes.
The cameras had was it a two-way capability, basically? You
Yes.
could talk to the camera or
You
something.
could
on the
talk
camera?
and they could hear. At certain times it could be activated.
Was there ever any other time where she instructed you to make Timothy throw up?
Yes.
About how many times did she instruct you to do that?
3 or 4.
At some point in time, was there a form of discipline introduced that involved you placing Timothy in a cold tub?
Yes.
And what was the mechanism for that? How did you do that?
Clog the tub, plug it, turn on the water, and take the ice that was in our ice maker upstairs and put it in, and have him get in.
Initially, how long was he supposed to sit in the cold water?
30 minutes.
30 minutes? And that, when we say cold water, we actually mean water with ice cubes in it? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
And when did that start in relation to when Timothy died, if you remember?
I do not remember the exacts.
And do you know about how many times you did that up until the day before Timothy died?
Before the day that Timothy died?
The day before Timothy died, we'll get to that in just a moment, and I believe that...
3, then.
So you remember doing it 3 times before the day before Timothy died?
Yes.
And who would direct you to put him in the ice bath?
Shanda.
Was there some type of camera in the bathroom as well?
Yes, on the counter.
Was that camera monitored by somebody if you were in the bathtub, or if you were in the bathroom with Timothy?
Shanda?
Were you instructed to stay in the bathroom with Timothy when he was in the tub?
Yes.
Why?
To ensure that he couldn't get comfortable or try to turn the water hot.
And what would you, if you tried to move around, what were you instructed to do?
I don't quite understand.
If you said that you were supposed to make sure that he stayed uncomfortable, how were you supposed to make him uncomfortable in an ice bath?
Put his body at an odd angle that was not a comfortable position to be in.
When he was in the tub, would he try to rest his head somewhere?
On his shoulder, yes, or the lip of the tub.
Was that allowed?
No.
I know this is difficult for you, Paul, and you and I have had a number of conversations about this matter, but I need you to look at a text message that you sent to your mother. It's got a photo that you took of your brother. You remember sending that text message?
Yes, sir.
Who took that photo of your brother?
Me?
And you sent it to your mother?
Yes, sir.
Why did you send it to your mother?
Because I was concerned with how thin he was.
And that photo was taken on, do you remember what the date was?
Not the exact, no.
If your phone indicated it was June 13th, you'd have no reason to dispute that.
No, sir.
And you just became, again, the reason you sent it to your mother was why?
Because I was concerned about how thin he was.
And you remember what your mother told you to give him after you sent her that photograph?
Bread?
And then is there a reference to bread and some peanut butter?
Yes.
So at that point, your brother's very skinny, right? Was he eating regular meals at that point?
No.
Were you still administering the hot sauce on the bread as a form of punishment for him during that time period?
Yes.
And did that continue all the way up until the time of his death?
Yes.
Did he ever eat any normal type of meal leading up to his death after you took that photo and sent it to your mother?
That day I made him an actual real meal, an actual peanut butter and jelly sandwich, as well as scrambled some eggs and put cheese in them.
Did you tell your mother you had made that meal for him?
No, sir.
Why not?
Because I didn't want her to be upset with me.
Let's move up to the day before your brother passed away. Do you remember the day before your brother died?
He was unresponsive when I was told to get him up.
So you were given some instructions to wake him up in the morning?
Yes.
Was your mother already at work?
Yes.
Were the cameras activated at that point, though?
Yes.
So your responsibility when you had to go wake him up was what? Just to do what? To get him up?
Just wake him up, which normally wasn't difficult before then.
And this is the day before he passed away, but was it difficult on that day?
Very.
Did you scream at him and yell at him to get him to try to wake up?
Yes.
And at some point were you instructed to do something with him because he wouldn't wake up?
Put him in an ice bath.
And did you do that?
Yes.
Was he able to, where was he sleeping that night?
Closet.
So when you went to wake him up and he was unresponsive, was he still in the closet?
Yes.
How did you get him from the closet to the bathroom with the
I
ice
had
bath?
to drag him.
He didn't stand on his own?
He couldn't, no.
Didn't walk on his own? Is that enough? Is that
No.
enough? Was he even talking at that point?
No.
Do you remember about what time it was that you put him in the ice bath?
Not exactly, no.
If the text message indicated it was around 2 o'clock, does that sound about right?
Yes.
What time did you have to leave for work that particular day?
I was supposed to be at work at 4, but unfortunately, due to a flat tire on my e-bike, I had to wait till 6 for my mother to get home and drive me to work.
So from 2 to 6 until your mother got home, you were home with Timothy, is that right?
Yes,
And where was Timothy that entire time that you were home with him?
in the bath.
In the ice bath? Was your
Yes.
mother giving you instructions on what to do with him while he was in that tub then, at that point in time?
Yes, sir.
What was she telling you to do?
Make him uncomfortable, and at one point she had me heat up a pizza roll to see if he would be responsive to enticement.
Did you actually do that?
Yes.
And what did you, so describe for the jury exactly what you did with that pizza roll with Timothy in the tub.
I held it close, and when he responded, as per instruction, I was to pull it away from him.
So did you actually do this?
Yes.
So you actually held a pizza roll in front of him to see if he would respond? Is that yes?
Yes, sir.
I know it's difficult. Did he respond?
Yes, sir.
And what did you do when he tried to respond?
I had to, or as I was told, I pulled it away.
So he didn't get to eat the pizza roll?
No.
Do you recall, while Timothy was in the tub, an exchange where your mother inquired about pouring hot sauce on his private parts?
I do, yes.
Did you do that?
No. That was beyond rule, as everything else was.
So you put him in the tub around 2. Did your mom come home at 6?
Yes.
And when your mom gets home at 6, did you go to work at that point in time?
She drove me to work, yes.
And was Timothy still in the tub at that point in time?
Yes.
So you and your mom drove to Grand Haven to drop you off at work, and Timothy's just in the tub?
Yes, sir.
Was he even physically able to move around at that point in time?
No.
Do you recall getting a text message from your mother around 11:30 or so that night while you were at work?
Yes.
And
Though I saw it later than that because I was busy.
so you received the text message, but you didn't actually read it until a little bit later than it was received.
Yes, sir.
And what did you understand from that text message from your mother about where Timothy had been up until the time you were at work at 11:30 at night?
Still in the tub.
So that's 9 hours plus from the time that you first put him in the tub at 2 o'clock?
Yes.
When you got home, do you remember about what time you got home that night?
1 o'clock?
How did you get home? Did somebody give you a ride?
Yes. A
So you're-
coworker.
Did your mom didn't pick you up that night, did she?
No.
When you got home at 1 o'clock, did you go to your bedroom?
Yes.
Downstairs in the basement area, the lower level?
Yes, sir.
Did you see Timothy at all?
No.
Did you check on him at all?
No.
When did you next become aware that something was happening with Timothy?
The next morning,
And what happened?
I had to get up early so that Shanda could drive me to the premises area of work. And I'd gone to the laundry room to get a pair of clean socks and was then made aware that he was not breathing
And where was he at that point in time?
in the closet.
And who made you aware that he wasn't breathing?
Shanda?
Was he on his bunk bed?
No.
Was he ever on his bunk bed from the time that he was in that small closet until the time the police arrived? If you know, do you know how much time passed from the time that you first became aware he wasn't breathing until 911 was called?
18 minutes?
And during that 18 minutes, did you tell your mother or ask your mother if you were going to call 911?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember what she said?
No. She said no. Sorry, that was my bad.
I'm sorry, good. Let's clarify that. Do you remember what your mother said when you asked her if we should call 911?
She said no.
So you didn't call 911 at that time?
No.
during that time period, what were you doing?
I was attempting to resuscitate, though it was too late.
At the time when he came out of the small room, how did he get out of the small room at that point? How did his body actually come out of the small room?
He was removed.
By who?
Shanda, and I believe I helped a bit.
What was he wearing when he came out of the room?
Nothing but an adult diaper.
At some point, did you put clothes on him?
Yes,
Who put the clothes on him?
both me and Shanda, per Shanda's request, order, however you'd like to phrase it.
So before he was wearing the diaper, but you put the clothes on him while he's unresponsive outside of the small room.
Yes.
And do you remember what clothes you put on him?
A hoodie, a pair of my jeans, and Shanda had me remove my belt and put it on him.
Did she tell you why she wanted you to take the belt off and put it on?
Because the pants were too big.
At some point, the 911 is actually called, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, before 911 was called, and I guess let me ask you this, who actually called 911?
Me.
But did Shanda actually talk to the 911 folks, if you remember?
Not that I remember of, no.
Before 911 is called, was there some discussion about a hunger strike?
Yes.
What was the discussion about the hunger strike at that point?
Shanda said to say that he'd gone on a hunger strike.
Or
And
was it
that we
he? Who was
found
she-
him on the bed.
Seems
dead.
obvious, but who was she referring to?
Timothy.
And said that he was found on the bed?
Yes, the bed.
So 911 comes at that point, and then the police are also involved, is that right?
Yes, sir.
At some point in time, did the police leave you guys alone in the home
Yes.
later that night?
Yes.
And when that happened, did Shanda do anything with any of the items in the house?
She disposed of evidence.
What did she dispose of?
Vibration detectors, a camera upstairs that was not confiscated. She broke the memory chip that was inside into 4 pieces and threw them out the window as we were driving to Grandma and Grandpa Vander Ark's.
So you went down to Grandma Vander Ark's that night?
Yes.
And she disposed of evidence on the way down to...
Yes, and the vibration alarms were thrown into a trash can, stuffed in a plastic bag and thrown into a trash can at the Chick-fil-A near our house.
When you say the vibration alarms, are you talking about the sensors that were on the doors?
Yes.
Was one of those the sensor that was on the small room door?
Yes.
Just a moment. Mr. Ferguson, we've had you testified about some of the alarms that were placed on Timothy's body. Did those alarms, what would those alarms do? I mean, how would they make noise or alert people?
Allowed beeping.
Was that something you could hear if you were like, close to the alarms?
Yes. Through solid wall even.
And did Timothy have some ear problems?
Yes.
What were-
Sensitive hearing.
He had sensitive hearing?
And had tubes implanted at one point.
To your knowledge, was Shanda aware that he had these hearing problems and the tubes in his ears?
Very much so.
And again, to your knowledge, was it indicated to you that the alarms were a form of punishment for him, that as if they went off, they would be harmful to him, or
Painful.
distracting to him?
I believe so.
And we talked about being made to stand against the wall. Was he made to do something else against the wall as a form of punishment as well?
Wall sits.
And wall sits, for the jurors that might not be aware, is what, basically?
Back pressed against the wall, crouched with your legs as though you're sitting in a chair.
But nothing to support your weight on your
No,
buttocks or your upper thigh area.
no.
And he was, at some point, he was forced to do that as well. I have no further questions.
Before you begin, Mr., I think it's